The mysterious Dyatlov Pass incident. It wasn't until I stood at the foot of the Ural Mountains that I truly began to understand the weight of what I had signed up for. The cold, biting wind clawed at my face, and the snow-covered expanse stretched before me, untouched and unwelcoming. I had read every report, studied every theory, but none of that prepared me for the eerie silence of Dyatlov Pass. The same place where, 65 years ago, 9 experienced hikers met their mysterious and violent end. As an investigative journalist, I had covered plenty of strange, unsolved cases. But there was something about Dyatlov Pass that kept pulling me back. The way those 9 hikers, experienced, strong, and careful, had been found. Some half-dressed, others with bizarre injuries, eyes missing, tongues cut out. The official report claimed it was an unknown compelling force. But that wasn't enough for me. There had to be an explanation, something grounded, something logical. I had to know. I was here to retrace their steps, to hike the same path they had taken in 1959, and to spend one night at the exact spot where they made their final camp. It didn't take long before I realized I wasn't alone. At first, I chalked it up to paranoia. After all, the Dyatlov Pass incident was practically legend now. Theories ranged from avalanches to secret military experiments to aliens. The isolation, the cold, and the very history of this place were enough to make anyone feel like they were being watched. But this was different. It started that first night when I pitched my tent on the mountain slope, right near where the Dyatlov group had set up their doomed camp. The wind howled, rattling the fabric of my tent, and the temperature plummeted to below freezing. I had spent years on assignments in remote and dangerous places, but this felt different. Like the mountain itself was alive, aware of my presence. As I lay there cocooned in my sleeping bag, I could hear the wind carrying faint noises, strange sounds that didn't belong in the desolate wilderness. At first I thought it was the creaking of trees, or maybe the echo of distant animals. But the more I listened, the clearer it became. Voices, whispers, barely audible, but there, urgent, panicked. I sat up, heart pounding, convinced someone was outside my tent. I grabbed my flashlight and unzipped the tent flap. The beam of light sliced through the dark, revealing nothing but snow and wind. My breath clouded the air, the cold stinging my skin. No one was there, just the eerie, endless expanse of white. I crawled back inside, telling myself it was the wind playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, as though eyes I couldn't see were trained on me from the darkness. The next morning, I woke up to find strange tracks in the snow around my tent. Footprints, but they weren't human. The prints were large, deep, and clawed, leading in circles around my campsite before disappearing into the trees. I felt my stomach twist with unease. There were no large predators in this region. Whatever had left those prints wasn't something I could explain. Still, I pressed on, determined not to let fear stop me. I spent the day hiking further into the pass, following the same route the Dyatlov hikers had taken. But the deeper I went, the more the feeling of dread grew, settling into my bones like the bitter cold. The whispers returned, louder now, almost urgent, like voices calling for help or warning me. By late afternoon, I reached a clearing, and that's when I saw it. A tattered piece of cloth, flapping in the wind, caught in a nearby tree. My breath hitched in my throat. It looked old, faded, almost like it had been there for years. Could it have belonged to the Dyatlov group? My pulse quickened as I approached it, and that's when I noticed something strange. A small mound in the snow just beneath the tree, half buried. With shaking hands, I cleared the snow away, and what I found made my blood run cold. A fragment of bone. It was small, maybe part of a hand or foot, but it was unmistakably human. My stomach churned, and a deep primal fear clawed its way into my mind. I scrambled back, nearly slipping on the ice as I hurried to leave the clearing. The whispers grew louder, more frantic, almost as if they were surrounding me. And then I saw them. Figures, dark and indistinct, standing at the edge of the clearing, barely visible through the swirling snow. I blinked, thinking it was a trick of the light, but they didn't disappear. They stood there watching me. My heart raced and I fumbled for my flashlight, shining it toward them. But the beam revealed nothing. The figures were gone. I turned and ran, my breath coming in ragged gasps, my footsteps frantic in the snow. I didn't care about my gear, my tent, or even the story anymore. I just needed to get out. The whispers were everywhere now, a cacophony of voices, calling my name, begging, screaming. My head spun, and I could feel their presence behind me, closer and closer, pressing in on me. When I finally reached the trailhead, gasping for breath, I looked back one last time. The mountain stood silent and still, the wind howling through the pass. But in the distance, near the clearing where I had found the bone, I could see the faint outlines of figures, watching me, waiting. I left the Urals that night, never looking back, but the feeling, the whispers, they've stayed with me. I hear them sometimes in the quiet of the night, a faint reminder of what I saw, or didn't see. Whatever happened to those 9 hikers all those years ago, I know one thing for sure. Something out there in Dyatlov